What would happen when the next generation of wizards arrives at Hogwarts? What troubles would the children of Harry Potter find themselves into? Follow us on this magical Harry Potter What If as we learn what Albus Potter and Scorpius Malfoy are willing to do to get out of their father's shadows. Albus had taken the invisibility cloak from his brother's bag. He knew James wouldn't mind him borrowing it, as long as he didn't lose it while he was wondering about the castle. He and Scorpius had made an excellent plan, and it was sure to make for an interesting night. When searching through books in the library for a history of magic essay, they came across the description of a secret room hidden beneath Hogwarts. Though it did not name the castle that it was located in, the description was uncanny. The Vault of Merlin, hidden away in safekeeping, there was said to be many artifacts and strange magics that had been lost to time. "Are you sure about this, Al?" Scorpius questioned as the two readied to leave the common room. "How cool would it be if we found magic artifacts that haven't been seen in nearly 1,000 years? Albus grabbed the cloak from his bed, noticing the concern written across his friend's face. "If this worries you, we don't have to do it." "No, I want to help you." Scorpius nodded, though he still sounded hesitant. "Don't worry. Tonight we're just looking for books about Merlin in the restricted section. If it gets to be too much, we'll leave." Albus threw the cloak around him and his friend, and the two began on their way to the library. It wasn't often that Albus considered anything that involved breaking the rules. In general, he enjoyed attending his classes and spending time with his friends. He didn't need to find any extra adventure to have fun. He was happy with the way things were. And Scorpius knew that, which is what made him question what they were doing out of bed so late at night. He couldn't figure out why Albus wanted to find this hidden vault so badly. When the two entered the restricted section, they weren't quite sure where to start. Merlin could be in a number of these books, as he was one of the most powerful wizards in history. It also left them with the question, if the secret vault had been documented, then how come no one knew where it was? It took more than one trip to the restricted section for Albus to feel like he had gotten any closer to finding the vault. On their third trip to the library, Scorpius found a staircase that led to another level of the library, opening up even more books for the two to search through. "Al, can I ask you something?" Scorpius seemed hesitant, pulling a few books from another shelf. "Yeah, of course." Albus nodded. "Why do you want to find this vault so badly?" Scorpius shrugged, taking a seat beside his friend. "I mean, if Merlin thought anything needed to be hidden away in a vault, then maybe it's not something we should be looking for." He stopped a moment, shutting the book in front of him. "I don't know." Albus sighed. "I guess I'm tired of hearing how much I'm not like my dad." "Don't you ever get tired of everyone bringing up your dad?" "Well, yeah. It was really hard when I first got here. No one wanted to be friends with a Malfoy. I'm tired of hearing how my dad was a hero, and I'm just me." Albus pushed himself up from the table. "You don't have to prove to anyone that you're just like your dad." Scorpius tried to reassure him. "You care about your friends. You do good in your classes. Your sister really looks up to you. Those are all far more important than how outgoing your brother is or that he likes to make jokes." "Maybe you're right," Albus nodded, walking over to one of the shelves. "What's finding this vault going to do anyway?" "We can still look for it if you want to find it." Scorpius gave him a nudge. "But let's do it because you want to, not because you feel like you have something to prove." "Do you want to find it?" Albus asked. "It does sound like fun." Scorpius smiled, "and it feels really close." It took a few more days of sneaking into the library before Albus and Scorpius found anything more than a few random books. They came to the last room below the restricted section, and just like the last, the walls had floor-to-ceiling shelves covered with books. However, one of the shelves only held one book. It was set up on display, more on a pedestal that was built within the shelving. Albus and Scorpius cautiously approached the book, almost feeling as if it was too obvious. When they opened the book, they found handwritten pages, each describing a different artifact that they had never heard of. Scorpius noticed a page that had been signed. Not all of them had, but it was definitely Merlin's name at the bottom of the page. The two had found Merlin's personal journal, detailed notes on times that he had come across and locked away for safekeeping. "We should take this," Albus smirked. "If we find the vault, it will help us learn what is what." Scorpius picked up the journal from the shelf. In doing so, there was a loud crack that echoed through the small room. The shelf slowly receded into the wall, scratching and scraping along the way. It then shifted to the left, exposing a staircase that went further down into the castle. "Come on," Albus took Scorpius's sleeve, starting down the staircase. It spiraled down at least another 2 levels before they found a door in front of them. There was no lock or handle to let themselves through. Scorpius opened the book for clues on how to open the door, but there was a click of the non-existent lock as the cover opened. The door swung open on its own and allowed the two inside. The room that they found looked far different than the rest of the castle. The pillars along the wall had more detail and swirls, looking like branches stretching up to the ceiling. The floor was marbled rather than concrete. It felt out of place compared to the rest of the castle. It was full of items lining the walls. Shelves were placed randomly and a desk sat in the middle of the room. Small alcoves held artifacts on pedestals or display cases. Albus and Scorpius were able to identify many of the items based on the journal entries in the book they had brought with them. The Hourglass of Lost Time. Merlin wrote about how the hourglass could take you back in time, 1 hour back, and allow you to fix mistakes made. However, the hourglass would take something in return. Each use would take time from your life. It was not noticeable at first, but with increased uses, it became more obvious. "My father told us about time turners. They could take you further back, depending on how many times you turned it." Albus explained, "This must be what they were based off of." The Founders' Wands. As being taught by the original founders of Hogwarts, the 4 decided to entrust their wands to me upon their deaths. Salazar Slytherin's wand is quite unique, using a basilisk horn for its core rather than a traditional core. This gave it great range in the dark arts. Helga Hufflepuff's wand had been imbued with Dittany, creating much stronger healing magic than one is typically capable of. Rowena Ravenclaw's wand had the core of Demiguy's hair, a creature that was considered very intelligent and had the power to see the future, making the founder quite proficient as a seer and using divination. Godric Gryffindor used wood from a whomping willow and used phoenix tears to increase the strength of his wand. This created stronger defensive spells and stunning spells. The Chalice of Eternal Light. What Muggles have come to know as the Legend of the Holy Grail. It transforms any liquid into a powerful potion. Though the potion desired will complete its purpose, it will also come with dangerous side effects, often more potent and dangerous than whatever the intention is worth. The Heart of the Phoenix, a gemstone, small enough to be held in the palm of your hand, glowed red and looked as if a fire was burning in the center of it. The stone took on properties attributed to a phoenix. The stone could heal wounds, even those that would be considered impossible, just like a phoenix tear. It could also control fire magic with ease, something that was often considered dark magic and difficult to master. Too much time spent with the stone would cause an endless cycle of rebirth. At each death, a person would be reborn, though they would not come back as themselves, finding themselves as a new soul with the memories of their past life. Only with constant contact with the stone would the cycle continue, and there was no guarantee that a person would find themselves still in the magical world, or even in the same country when reborn. The last alcove held a large mirror in a grand frame that matched the pillars of the room. Intricate details and an engraving at the top of the mirror. It reminded Albus of a story that his father had told. The Mirror of Erised. However, the engraving was different and the frame was more natural, like in the details where the mirror his father told him about was more simple. Riap, Sed, Nara, Eftse, Tergs, Tre, Hruo, Itub, Kafru, Oito, Nuosi. This mirror didn't have any description in the journal, just a plaque beneath it. Mirror of Riapsed. Albus and Scorpius were left questioning what was so special about it. My dad said the mirror he found in his first year could show you your deepest desire. He saw his parents since he never knew them. That's all he had wanted. My uncle saw himself as head boy and Quidditch captain, standing out from all of his brothers. Albus explained. Is this the same mirror? Scorpius questioned. No, the inscription is different. Albus shook his head. Here, why don't I test it out? Scorpius stepped closer to the mirror. I don't know, Scorp. What if it does something bad? Albus hesitated. It's just a mirror. What's the worst that could happen? Scorpius laughed. He placed himself in front of the mirror, making sure that Albus wasn't behind him to distort the image. The image reflected nothing that was in the room other than himself. He was standing with his father, the both of them in tears as they were in front of a hospital bed at St. Mungo's. There was a person in the bed. However, a white sheet covered them from head to toe. The sheet was unmoving. There was no breath or shifting from the person underneath. Scorpius didn't need to move the sheet to know who was beneath it. Scorp? He didn't hear Albus say his name, nor did he notice the tears that had started streaming down his face. Scorpius? Albus put himself between his friend and his reflection. The scene that Scorpius saw in the reflection disappeared. Now all he saw was Albus in front of him. His breath was heavy and he felt uneasy, dropping to his knees. Hey, Albus tried to support his fall, keeping a hold on his arm. What's wrong? What did you see? My mom. Scorpius shook his head, scraping the tears from his face. She was. He couldn't finish his sentence, swallowing hard. Don't worry, your mom is fine. She's at home with your dad, she's okay. Albus tried to reassure him. But she isn't. Scorpius finally admitted. It was the first time that he had said it out loud. The first time he was admitting the truth to anyone, even to himself. She's going to die. It's just the mirror. Albus sat with his friend. It must show you your greatest fear instead of desire like the other mirror does. My mom is sick, and she's been getting worse. The healer said it's a blood malediction. Scorpius's voice shook as he spoke. She's been getting worse, and they don't know how much longer she has. What's a blood malediction? Albus questioned. A curse. One of her ancestors, generations ago, was cursed. It hasn't shown up in their bloodline for a long time, but my mom has it, and it means she's going to die soon. Are you cursed too? No, this one only affects women, and it can skip generations. My Aunt Daphne doesn't have it. It's going to be okay, Scorp. Albus did his best to reassure him, though he wasn't entirely sure what he could do to help. Your mom is still here. She's okay. Why don't we take a break? We can come back another day if we want. Let's go to bed. It was nearly a week before they went back to the secret vault. The entire time, Scorpius couldn't focus on anything other than what he saw in the mirror. He had trouble sleeping, and he couldn't pay attention in his classes. He was stuck on his mother. Albus had done more research on the two mirrors to help ease his friend's worry. The mirror of Erised, the one that his father had come across while in school, showed one's deepest desire. It was easy to notice that Erised was desire spelled backward. That confirmed Albus's original theory that this new mirror showed someone's greatest fear, as Rieb said was despair spelled backwards. Though this only confirmed to Scorpius that his mother was not dead yet, but it was still going to happen. His mother was going to die, and it was going to be soon. Scorpius was more focused on the other items that were in the vault. The chalice could create a potion that could save his mother, or the heart of the phoenix could heal her blood malediction. There was even a possibility that the wand of Helga Hufflepuff would be strong enough to heal her. And with the hourglass of lost time, he would have the ability to try all three, and if it didn't work, turn back time like it never happened. He didn't voice the ideas to Albus. He knew it would be risky, and he wasn't sure that his friend would go along with the plan. A plan that he hadn't thought all the way through. How would he get these items to his mother while he was at school? It wasn't until the Easter holiday was coming up that Scorpius was able to figure out what he could do. He had already invited Albus to spend the holiday with him and his family. The two could bring the artifacts with them and try them out. The night before they went home on the train, Scorpius snuck into the restricted section alone, bringing 4 items with him to hide in his trunk. The Chalice of Eternal Light, the Heart of the Phoenix, Helga Hufflepuff's wand, and the Hourglass of Lost Time. Scorpius waited until they were on the train to tell Albus his plan. Albus was instantly against the plan, trying to explain to his friend the risks that could happen. All of the artifacts described great risk for their use, but none of the entries were specific as to what could happen. There was no way of knowing what using these items would do. Scorpius didn't care. He just wanted to save his mother. Arriving at the Malfoy home, Astoria and Draco were delighted to have one of Scorpius's friends over. It always made Albus happy for Scorpius, knowing how warm and welcoming his parents were despite how Draco was raised. Scorpius began the first night. He felt that his best chances were with the chalice. He helped set up the table for dinner, ensuring that his mother's wine was placed in the chalice before it made it to the table. The liquid glowed when it sat in the chalice before returning to its original deep red color. Dinner went on normally. Mr. and Mrs. Malfoy asked the boys how school was going. Draco also asked about Albus's parents, curious as to how Harry was faring. That was until Astoria took her first sip of the enchanted wine. She looked confused by the taste, and Albus and Scorpius could have sworn they had seen her grow a bit more color in her face, as if she wasn't as sick as she had been moments ago. "I think this bottle has gone bad," she commented, setting the glass aside. "I can open you another one." Draco got to his feet, taking the wine glass with him. He looked far more pale than he usually did. Draco only took a few steps before stopping. His hand came to his chest, grunting in pain before he collapsed to the ground. "Draco?" Astoria was quickly to her feet, rushing over to his side. "Dad?" Scorpius's voice was soft. He was frozen, unable to move and staring at the scene before him. Albus jumped to his feet, quickly realizing what had happened. The journal entry had mentioned side effects and sacrifices for the powerful potions that it could create. Instead of Astoria being sick, Draco was instead. Albus ran from the room, darting up the stairs of the large home as quickly as he could. He knew exactly where Scorpius had left the hourglass. He knew the price of turning it would have its own consequences. His own life would shorten. Even if it took 10 years from his life, he knew it was a better option than Scorpius being the reason for his own father's death. Flinging open the doors to his closet, Albus turned the hourglass over. Things returned to how they had been an hour ago. Albus and Scorpius were both in their room, talking about what they were going to have for dinner. Scorpius was talking about how he could get his mother's wine into the chalice and save her life. "Scorp, you can't use the chalice." Albus stopped him. "What?" The smile disappeared from his face. "I just used the hourglass to bring us back." Albus shook his head. "The chalice made your mom look healthier. She looks so much better. But your dad collapsed. He was pale. He was dying. Is he okay?" Scorpius jumped to his feet before realizing what Albus had said. "You used the hourglass?" "Al, I didn't want you to have to do that. I'm sorry, I was going to take all the consequences of these artifacts." "I had to." Albus shook his head. "You weren't moving. I couldn't let your dad die like that." "Thank you." Scorpius gave his friend a soft smile. "I don't know if we should try this again." Albus tried to steer his friend away from what he knew was coming next. "The stone heals wounds. It should work right." Scorpius ignored the warning. "But this isn't a wound, it's a curse. I have to try." Scorpius tried the Heart of the Phoenix next. He waited for his mother to go to bed that night before bringing the stone near her. Albus waited with the hourglass in case he needed to turn it again. Proximity to the stone was supposed to heal any injuries a person had. Scorpius had noticed a small cut on his hand slowly disappear, something that wasn't a terrible injury, a paper cut, and it was gone in seconds. Albus waited outside as Scorpius went in, getting the stone as close to his mother as he could. Scorpius had a small moment of hope when it looked like the blood within her veins were glowing. He could see each vein that was near the surface of her skin, drawing a map across her skin. It was healing the blood. That's what he thought until the glow extended past her veins, and in a moment, she was swallowed in a ball of fire. Albus rushed in when he saw the sudden burst of light emit from the room. The flames held no heat, and it didn't hurt to touch them. But when they disappeared, there was nothing remaining. The spot where his mother had been fast asleep was now empty. There were no ashes like there was when a phoenix was reborn. Astoria was simply gone. The hourglass turned over, and Albus and Scorpius found themselves back in the boy's bedroom. Albus had to explain to Scorpius about how this did not work either, and that his mother had disappeared. There was no proof to where she had gone, but Albus speculated that she had been reborn, and there was no way of knowing where she had gone. Scorpius only had one trick left: Helga Hufflepuff's wand, said to have extraordinary healing powers because of the dittany infused at its core. He wasn't feeling confident anymore. The first two ideas, which were far more likely to succeed, had failed. Scorpius wasn't sure he could save his mother anymore. "Come on, Scorp," Albus gave him a nudge. "There's no harm in trying once more." Only this failed as well. When Scorpius tried to use the wand on his mother, nothing happened. Albus suspected that it was because dittany was used for minor and shallow injuries, most often in a topical manner. Since the blood curse ran deep, it was more involved than healing a flesh wound. Upon returning to school, the boys returned the items they had borrowed to the hidden vault. Scorpius found himself looking towards the mirror again, not to where he could see the horrible vision. He didn't need to watch that again, but he stared at it as if it were the near future. "Scorpius," Albus began slowly, "I'm sorry that this didn't work. I really thought I could save her." Scorpius shook his head. "Just spend the time you have with her. She still has time, and she wants to spend that with you and your dad. If you keep your head buried in a book looking for answers, when she's gone, you won't be able to remember her last moments. You need to be with her. And just pretend nothing is wrong? No, but show her you love her just as she will show you." Albus tried to offer a smile. "And know that your dad loves you too. Everything will be okay." There are many unknown objects in the wizarding world, and many that have been hidden away for good reasons. What other secrets did Merlin keep hidden for all these years? What other adventures can the next generation create at Hogwarts? The magical world of Harry Potter has many untold stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see what magical journey we go on next.